All right. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us tonight. My name is Melody McAllister. I am an educator. I'm an author of the I'm Sorry story, and I'm also a self-proclaimed parent and community advocate. I always have been since I started teaching. Too many years, I won't even say. And I would love if you wanted to follow me on Twitter at MJ McCallie Writes, but I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at these also. But tonight I have two great educators with me, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves in just a second. But our focus tonight is looking at the opportunity for virtual learning. We just came out of a disaster. Last spring was a disaster, but there are also educators who have been doing this for years. And one of our guests even has sons who are thriving in life after many years of virtual learning. So I hope that when you watch tonight, that you'll feel some sort of empowerment, whether you're a parent, whether you're an educator, whether you're a community member. And I hope that you'll even share this if you like. And please, please feel free to drop your questions or wisdom or comments below so that we can share with one another. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce my first guest, Miss Sophia Stier. Please introduce yourself to us.
Hi, everybody. This is so exciting. I'm in Pennsylvania. It is. It really is. I'm in Pennsylvania, and I tutor math, and I am the founder for Little Math Girl. Little Math Girl can be found on Twitter, Instagram, anywhere. Look me up, www.littlemathgirl. Email me, lil@littlemathgirl. My focus in life outside of tutoring children in math, I combine art and mathematics together. But my focus is really young girls and mathematics and getting them more into math. And that is one of the things that actually led me to teaching mathematics virtually. Started in college, and then it evolved from there. When I could no longer be in the place where I was when I was in college, that's when I actually shifted over to online tutoring to students on mathematics. And that's all I'm going to say right now.
Okay, so wait a minute. So how long have you been teaching online?
About 14 years.
Awesome.
14 years. Mm-hmm.
I think that's so important because while virtually learning and teaching is new for a lot of us, for some of us, we have success for it. And so I think it's great. Thank you so much for joining. And I hope that anybody watching will check out Little Math Girl. That's awesome. And our next guest is Dr. Chris. Go ahead and tell us about yourself, sir.
Sure thing. I'm Dr. Chris Brownell. I am a mathematics and mathematics education professor, STEM educator in Fresno, California. I'm the co-author of a book, Math Recess, Playful Learning in an Age of Disruption. And I've been working at the university level with teachers teaching remotely and virtually for 5 or 6 years intensively. And I'm thrilled to be here. Happy. Thanks for inviting us along, Melody. It's looking forward to a great time.
Yeah, no, thank you both, because your experiences in virtual teaching and learning is amazing. So thank you both for being here. I feel like I'm in the presence of rock stars because I am. So, so let's get to our first topic. And while we're going to talk about this, please, if you're watching, drop your questions, drop your comments, anything. We will definitely want to address those. But Sophia, can you tell us, because you have sons that chose virtual learning and your story is so fascinating. Will you share with us that story?
Yes, well, I have two sons, and now one is a college graduate as of this year, and the other one is a high school graduate as of this year.
Congratulations.
And thank you. Yes, it's like, yay, I made it. They have always needed something else every time they were in school. So we've done Montessori, brick and mortar, private schools, and eventually wind up in a district that just wasn't serving their needs. No matter what we did, we could not get what we wanted for them. And not only were we aware of it as parents, but they were aware of it as students. My oldest son went through just every year, there was a wall, he couldn't get past. And when his younger brother wind up in the same situation, the two of them got together and looked up schools and came to me and said, we want to look at these online schools. And I said to them, are you kidding me? I go, that looks boring. What if it's boring? And they said, so what? They go, regular school's boring. They said, that's what they said to me. They go, regular school's boring. If we don't like it, we'll go back. And the older one said, he says, I don't want to see my brother have to go through what I went through. And they went and they literally interviewed 3 schools. It wasn't the schools seeing if they fit. They wanted to see if they fit the school. And they chose their school and they stayed there for the rest of their education. Their friends wanted them to come back. They said no. They said, we miss you. We'll see you on weekends, but this is where we belong. And it has been a very rich, fulfilling experience for both of them. They got to do things that you never would get to do in normal school. Take scuba diving as a class, go to Europe and stay for the semester because where their computer is where their schoolwork is. In the summers, the teachers, took them to France and the Galapagos and Canada and things like that. So they really got to explore. As young students, they got to take foreign languages. My youngest one took Spanish and German for about 6 or 7 years. My oldest one took Japanese. And so now he's studying Russian. But you don't get those experiences all the time. And the teachers are able to adjust to them because you're not in a classroom situation. Most of your work, if it's happening at your kitchen table, not on screen, then children get to take their time and explore a bit more. As long as they meet the deadline, there is no such thing as, okay, it needs to be done in the next 30 minutes. We only have 15 minutes more of class. So they get to spread out and you really get to see what they're made of. You really do. So were all the times perfect? Absolutely not. Every glitch problem that could possibly happen in online school has happened. But, once you get in there and you realize that you still have your entire school community and everything there for you, it really is a good experience.
So I love the sense of empowerment that you have given your sons, because I know that they felt the freedom to go look for themselves for an answer. I think that's amazing. And as a parent, that's like, I am just like, I bow to you. That's amazing. What were some of the roadblocks that they were experiencing in the brick and mortar school that made them want to go to, if you don't mind sharing, that made them want to go virtual? Because I'm sure that there are other parents experiencing this with their own children.
Yes. It's a hard thing when you approach school and say, you're not meeting the needs of this child. Because you're seen as that parent, every child's a genius, every child is. But I was watching 2 boys just go through work on automatic and having to try to figure out something to make it more. And they didn't want more from me. They wanted more from school. They wanted to be with their friends, and they said, this is what school's about. It's supposed to be about learning. And they always felt like, I've been there. And I was in a district in which they said, no, they're fine. Eventually it all pans out. And my thought to that was, well, of course it will. If you don't let children, do work at their level, they will all eventually pan out and be at the same level. But this school is very much like the same age should stay with the same age. This group should do this group, that kind of thing. And it just wasn't working. And what I saw was, I saw 2 boys that were becoming very disenchanted with school and really not having that faith or belief in that's where they should be. So when they spoke to me and said, we want to make the shift, I thought it can't get any worse. So let's try it, try different things. And, there is the stigma and things like that when people shift to online school or to a private school where, people feel sometimes in the community, you're taking funds away, you're taking students away and things like that. And what you really have to do is focus on your children and what they need, because this is about their life, their future. We've already done the school. Teachers already have their grades. You know, the community, they will talk for 15 minutes, and once they're done, they're done. You really have to say, what is best for my child, whether they need more or whether they need less, you know, get them on track. Don't go by ages and all of that other stuff. Really just focus on that. And so when we made that switch, it was a huge challenge. This school was very challenging. My sons love a challenge. They took on dual programs. So at any given time, they would have anywhere between 9 and 12 classes a year. And so when people say, you know, how they do it, they both graduated at 16 with some 40 to 50 credits. And they work. They have a work ethic and follow their lead. If they need more, give them more. If they need less, pull back. But really just focus on your children. And they would not have changed it for the world.
Awesome.
Sophia, how much of that work ethic was developed because they were in a situation that gave them the freedom to choose, that gave them the freedom to move about?
Absolutely. Having more of an, you know, people think the schedule is open, and it isn't. You really have to be disciplined and really about routine, or else a child will get off track really quick. So it's important to understand what it is they're doing and what they have to get done. In that, give them the responsibility, however, of getting it done. They always want to bite off more than they can chew. The house rule is, okay, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the pros and cons. And if you still want to take that bite, you have to finish. You have to swallow it. So if you join a team or something like that, what we let them know is that, you know, you have a responsibility not just to yourself, but to everyone else. So you can't just say yes and no and things like that. And those types of things is what builds that character of sticking with it and following through and finishing, whether they love it or not. It's like you have a responsibility. What's your responsibility? What's your goal? What's your purpose? Okay, what does it take to do that? And then that's how we lead them. We never led them with, do you love school? Do you love your teacher? If a child walks into a situation and they all of a sudden don't love their teacher, then they're not going to give to that class what they need to. What they have to know is, what is their purpose in that classroom?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what gets you through.
Golly, you just like schooled us seriously. That's amazing. So I just want to recap on this because
I
that
had
was
a
a
good
lot
mom.
of gems.
I had a good mom. My mom was a teacher also, so
Awesome. Well, you are also a very good mom. So kudos to your mom and kudos to you for sure. So what you've already just said is that definitely you want to have a routine. These are successful things that help create discipline and responsibility, learning through your mistakes and learning that perseverance, knowing that it's not just about your emotional connection to a human, but it's your purpose that you're really working towards. And as long as that purpose is clear, you're going to be more successful. I think that's beautiful. Chris,
Well,
I'm
hi,
sorry.
Marcia.
Yeah. Hi, Marcia. I know I didn't mean to interrupt you. What were you going to say, my friend?
No, I wasn't going to say a thing except,
Okay.
well, just let's move on.
All right. Well, that was great. It was really great. And so I know both of you are talking about, so there's a lot of nervousness about, virtual schooling. And we just heard your story, Sophia, which was amazing. And your sons are very successful and they have developed a lot of character through this. And actually, when they felt like they were hitting, a border or a boundary that they couldn't get past in their other school, they decided they took it on themselves to find a virtual school. And so I think that's amazing. So how can we attack the fear of virtual learning? Because this is so different for a lot of us.
Right. So one thing that we can do is embrace the fact that it's not just with us. It's something that's going to happen, right? We we are in an era, an epoch of humanity where this virus has us in a place where we must do this. So one way to attack the fear is to just accept the reality and then strive to pursue and make the best of it. But that's minimal, I think. Another real important piece of attacking that fear is to recognize some of what Sophia has just described. Within this framework of schooling, you create a lot of new opportunities and a lot of new means for students to grow, for students to encounter real learning, authentic learning. It will be different from what they did before, or what might have happened inside the four walls of a classroom. But it will be much more authentic for this time of humanity. We're way into the 21st century. Information is generated on a daily basis, helping people to interact with it in online and become confident in their ability to extract and manipulate the information world. Is just a better set of goals for education. Schooling needs to change and has needed to change for decades. And
Right.
This is just an opportunity for us to say, let's make it better.
Because even though, we've talked about this, but even though it was like crisis teaching for a lot of the public schools this last spring, because it was something that was not, they weren't able to prepare for, there were a lot of students and families that found success in this,
Yes.
and I've heard stories about that. They loved the freedom of being able to be at home and learning. And so it was successful. And so what you're saying, yes, we have to accept that this is actually a part of our future. It's not going to go away, even if we get, I was going to say antibody, but the vaccine, even if we get a vaccine for the coronavirus, I can say I'm losing my words. Even if our best situation happens in life, which we want healing, we want people to stop dying and getting sick, but this is actually a change that is going to help and be an opportunity for many of our students and families out there. And so just saying that, embracing that as a possibility can actually help you to slow down and think more clearly instead of being super upset about it.
Right. And welcoming these chances, right? Now you can actually watch your student learn, and well-designed lessons, well-designed learning experiences, learning activities will have the student demonstrating what they are capable of, rather than working on arbitrary skills that were really good or maybe semi-good and semi-important 50, 60, 80 years ago. I keep thinking in terms of mathematics. The overwhelming majority of math curriculum and math experiences were designed, for a different time, a pre-information world, a pre-internet world. And it's critical that our students experience mathematics, especially, in my opinion, in a time when we have devices that do better, that do the things we taught in the past better than we could ever do them ourselves. And what does that mean for mathematics? How does that change the mathematics that we need to learn? And
you get to leave it out on the table. That's probably one of the coolest things that happen with math at home. You get to incorporate it in other things. It's when you see what's happening in their class, or you can go back and look at the lesson, something like that. It's easy to take and, okay, let's try to translate that into life. How do we incorporate that into life? And also, one of the things, really, don't be afraid to say to your child, you know what? I don't have a clue. of what that means. Let's try to figure it out, because it's those moments that help them to stick with it and realize that math is hard. It really is. It's difficult, and especially for young children, to understand such an abstract concept, and that they have to work at it, that it takes work, and that as adults, we don't know everything. But you don't give up on it. You figure it out. And so what if it takes longer than what the lesson did? And that's one of the really beautiful things, is that lessons kind of go from here to here to here. But at home, you can back up and say, you know what? Wait a minute, we can't go to that one. Let's look at that one again, because you need that information. And I really think after this year that many parents are, if they have, all the children have to go back to brick and mortar, I think a lot of parents are going to miss those moments of actually watching their children develop.
Yeah.
I love that you said that. And I think both of you are totally math people, and that's wonderful. That's great. But everything that you said applies to all parts of learning.
Right. We can talk about other subjects.
I mean, I think it's great. We actually talked about math last week, and we talked with your co-author, Sunil, last week, Dr. Chris. So, I mean, it's all, but the cool thing is that it applies to everything in life, whether it's math, whether it's language arts, science. Like when you don't understand something, instead of just moving on because, for time's sake, you get to stand still, you get to stay still, you get to explore, and you get that opportunity to say, I don't know what this is, and you don't have to have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. If they did say they had all the answers, they're lying, right? So we're all in the same boat.
We are. And, the comment from Kim that you put up there, we do need to shift our mindset, and we need to recognize that this is something we can make happen. We can be empowered to make this change happen and make it a positive change. I keep hearing I know.
I accidentally.
I'm so sorry. It's quite all right. Hi, Melody. Anyway.
I'm sorry.
It's good.
Right. But you're right. I totally, yes. We have to shift our mindset, or shift it.
Yes. So
Absolutely.
I'll leave the other comment aside. Right. The other one can, anyhow.
Right. Don't feed into the drama. Don't make unnecessary plot lines for you that don't exist. So, one of the things really coming into this is that a lot of people, of course, have new students that have never done school at all. So this experience is their first experience at school. So don't feed into all the nervousness and everything. Teachers are learning, administration's learning, families are learning. Everything is going to change and adjust and hopefully get better and more focused, and everyone's going to make mistakes, and hopefully they learn from those mistakes and move on. So don't freak out about, oh no, what if, the internet goes down, or what if the school loses connection? Everyone's in that boat, okay? So communication. Really teach your students how to communicate with their teachers. Stay in touch with the teachers. Let teachers know what's going on with your students. Let them know little things. I would tell teachers, at the beginning of the year, if you see a missing assignment from my child, check with them first. Maybe they missed it. If no one responds to you and you notice there's nothing after a few days, check with me, because that means something's wrong. And something majorly is wrong because I didn't contact you. But let them know about, things that, are going well for your child, things that are not going so well for your child. They can't see all of that. There's a lot of keep your camera on, eyes must stay here, have a uniform on, things like that. And, if you have to communicate to them why that camera's not on, or for what reason, do that, because everyone is looking at it from that middle ground, like everything's okay. They're not looking at the extremes. And when they look at the extremes, they say, well, that is really an extreme. But not every home is ready for that camera on, mic on moment. A lot of children are taking care of themselves, so to speak. And so it's really important. Communication is really important. Teachers really need to reach out right now. And parents have to remember also that a lot of what's going on, it gets directed towards teachers. And right now we're seeing a lot of angst and everything with teachers. But administration sets the pace, not the teachers. So make sure you still go to your school board meeting and things like that. Those things are still happening. School is still structured like school. So everything is still in place, and use all those things to your advantage.
So
Go ahead.
a couple of things that we've found that would be helpful for working with students, right, in a virtual setting. Among them is helping them establish and work with their own schedule. So find out what schedule that the school has, but then also work with them to schedule the rest of their day and their time as they work on the material that they have, and literally writing things down. This is good advice that I tried raising my three daughters to some success, and it was less critical then, because they had these very rigid day-long periods of work at school. But as you go through now working with your students in a setting that's a little freer, you have to help them discover how to be disciplined with their time. You might even look into, I don't know, Melody, have you heard of the Pomodoro techniques or anything of that nature?
Yeah. I don't think so.
Pomodoro essentially it's a timer. You can find Pomodoro timers online, and they are, set a timer for 20 minutes of work time. Then there's a 10-minute get up, do a little stretching exercise, break, get a cup of coffee, use the restroom, have a glass of water, jog up and down the stairs, get back to work for 20 minutes. That sort of thing where the idea where you can build in creative time with creative breaks and sort of build your whole day around a successful routine.
Right. And so I just want to ask this question because it came up as listening to both of you. And right now we kind of just made a natural segue into successful tips for virtual learning. And we talked about routines. So what I'm hearing from you, and I want to know, is this just for older students or younger students, but do you think that like virtual learning actually creates more of the onus on the students than the teachers to be successful, like that intrinsic motivation that we long for, like in a face-to-face classroom, but sometimes we feel as teachers that we're working harder for some of our students' grades or success and growth than they are. Do you think that virtual learning actually gives them the opportunity to be the person who takes more initiative for their learning?
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. It may be that the teacher has to, and I work with teachers almost. That's my profession now. I work almost exclusively with teachers, and my strong encouragement to them is to look for ways to empower their students, to expand the horizons, to allow for student choice, therefore create space for student voice in what's happening in the classroom. You can do that and still aim for the major content goals and the practice goals or standards of your curriculum. You don't have to be as things. You may have to realize that the way things are written in a textbook is not the way things have to be learned. It's not the time frame and the timeline that students have to learn them. You may hop around through a textbook rather. I don't know if that's a good idea for a history book, but well, I don't know.
Or
Actually,
ditch the textbook, whatever. But yeah, but
I teach a history of math class that I start from the present and work backwards. I start, how did we get to where we're at? Kind of a series of questions. So you can think through these subjects in lots of different ways, and you don't have to be tied down. And I think virtual learning gives us that opportunity.
I like that perspective because that's,
Me too.
from a teacher standpoint. Now I'm going to go to the children's point of view. And yes, it does create that independence and things with practice. It's one of those things that they really have to learn that they're in school. So you want them to go to their teacher during that day when their instructors are available, to talk to them, not turn and talk to mom and dad. Don't ask mom and dad for the answers. Talk to the teacher, engage in class. And you really want to emphasize that, especially with younger students, because they will turn into an infant on you very quickly. And as parents, you're just, you're endeared, you want to help them, and this is too much and it's too, so, really start to pay attention so that you know the difference between this is too much and my child just doesn't want to do this.
Right.
Because there's going to be a lot of that. Everyone's in a situation that they did not choose. So this is not your standard online kind of experience. This is something that we all are forced to do. So it is going to be a challenge, but scheduling and routine is the thing, because after a while, we know as parents, if we stick with it long enough, we will win. So they will stay. And then hopefully, in their classes and things like that, they start to get that experience where they get to interact with their classmates and their teacher and things like that. But it does take discipline. And don't forget about your high schoolers. Do not fall into the trap of, because they are teenagers, they can handle their own schedule. Check in on them. They underestimate their time is what they do. So they could have that big book report and they say, well, I'll just put it off. I'll play a game for a little bit. And then they have that report, but they only have a day left and they needed more time than that. So you just want to check in on them to make sure that they're keeping on their schedule, that they're not behind in something, because they're less likely to talk about it because they feel like they should be keeping on top of it. And you don't want, the other reason you just want to check in, and this is like shadowing them. So you really, even if you set a time and you said, bring your book and let's talk about that. That's a good thing to do. But you don't want them to get into that place where no one knew what was happening with them till it's too late. That's when it gets a little discouraging for them and yourself as a parent.
I love that. And so I'm trying to put down some of your important gems that you're dropping. And so I think that, like what you just said, check-ins are going to help them develop discipline over time. And that this is not going to be like a fast turnaround. You watched your sons go through this for more than 8 years, and it took time. So you're telling us that it's going to take time, but the pieces have to be there in order. The communication between parents and teachers, but also between communication between the students and the teachers and the parents, like it's all together.
Exactly.
And over time, establishing those routines is going to contribute to the discipline that they have for younger or older students. And of course, it doesn't matter their age, they need input from you.
Absolutely.
And I've written about this. I'm sorry, Chris, I want to say one more thing. Don't forget your point. But it's so important for us to understand when our kids, like you said, when they're trying to communicate that something is too difficult, or they're just trying to get out of something because they don't want to do it. So I think that's another gem you dropped that I totally agree with. Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
No worries. So the other, the one thing that I want to add into the routines and the schedules is also you need to be, you as a parent, right? I feel like that's who we're wanting to speak with mostly. But parents, need to be to help their students learn to hold their schedule sort of sacred. And by doing that, I mean, you should do that too. Don't expect that because they're at home and sitting, sitting on the sofa, they're not doing something. If it's during a time that should be school, don't decide to take them off to some, soccer practice or it's time to go to the mall and do some extra shopping or head to Target with fully masked and socially distanced, of course. But don't, these are things, this time is still sacrosanct. It's still the time when school is supposed to happen, and it should remain that way in your mindset as well.
Right.
It feels free, but still it needs to be hemmed in and disciplined just a little bit. And you're coming from, I mean, it's hard to believe that I would say that as the kid who ran off the stage at graduation, right? I wanted nothing to do with school ever again. But you need to, it is really helpful to that student that the parent helps set that example that says, while you're in school, you're in school. We can do these other things when you're not. And
right. And I love that you said that, because even we're all parents and we know that our kids want to be with us. Well, I mean, until they hit a certain age, they might not want to be with us as much, but they still want to be around us. And so they see what we're doing. If we make learning time sacred, it will transfer to them. It'll be important. So I love that you mentioned that, because it is true.
And one other thing on that, to extend that out to your friends and family, train them also to respect your students' schedule, because they will want to have coffee and a play date and things like that. And grandma wants to come visit because the kids are home, and they have to understand that the kids are in school. And that is a very huge challenge. They're like, oh, but they're home. And it's like, no, they're not home. They're in school. So it does take a little bit to get them to not call and show up at the door uninvited and things like that. But you really have to make boundaries for it so that they can do what they need to do, so your students can get it done.
I love that. That is a very important piece of all of this that only someone who's mastered this could actually offer. So I love that you said that. So it's training your kids and your family to have sacred time for learning, but also everybody else that, wants to be with you. Like, if they're important to you, they're going to also learn over time that this is the time that your children are learning, and the boundary is there to make your kids successful, not to push people away. And loving people and wanting to be a part of your life means that you're going to respect those boundaries. And I love that you offered that. It's very important.
Yeah, and this is a hard thing for some people to learn, and it's even harder. This is just an aside, from my own life. Now that I'm home, my kids expect me to be available because I'm at home working, and so I get calls from my kids are all grown and they've all graduated college.
Kudos to you, man. That's awesome.
They've moved on, so it's a completely different perspective. But it's a strange time that we live in, that people feel like they can just call and interrupt in the middle of any day. If you still have work to do, and there's still you got to be kind of careful of these things, and it's a retraining we will all go through. So be honest with everybody around you. Look, we need this time.
And does it matter, because I'm kind of want to wrap it up, because we've been it's getting close to time and I want to respect everybody's time, but does it matter where kids are doing their virtual learning? Like Sophia or Dr. Chris, like, do people need to have a certain space for this, or do they just do it where it's comfortable? What have you learned that's the best?
I'll start. I think if you can dedicate a space for them, do that, and try to do a space where no one is passing through the space, if you can. so that you don't have people in the background behind them and things like that, if you can. If you can't, then do school where you can do school. For me personally, and for my boys, pajamas, street clothes, in bed, didn't matter. Like this thing where, a kid can't learn unless he's sitting up. That is lost on me. It really is. Everyone has their own comfort zone and what makes them comfortable. Some kids, their bedroom is their private closed space. So to, all of those little quirks like that, what you want to know is that they're engaged and that they are participating and they're getting their work done. And that they are covered decently. That's it. It's like, but outside of that, there are kids, you roll out of bed, they get on the bus and they get to school. They've been up for 20 minutes, by the time they've gotten to school. So the fact that they get their computer on and they are ready, good enough. Okay. What you want to see is, what are they producing? What comes out on the other end? We all know as college students, I mean, really, did we really get out of our pajamas unless we had to, right? So I find it a very strange thing for me. That did not affect my boys' learning ability at all.
Right. I love you address this in such a very nice way, because like if you're on teacher Twitter or you're on any of the social media, like we've been talking about this, and some people are, districts are saying you have to wear your uniform. Yes. You can't be in your bedroom, or you have to show your camera, but really those are not the ingredients of success at all. It's meeting your students where they are, allowing them to be comfortable in their space. And like you said, making sure that they're engaged and that they're actually with you during it. And you can do those things without having all of the control. And so you addressed that very nicely.
Yes. I think that's the thing. There's a great fear of losing control of the students, and the school isn't about controlling them. Okay. Like we all know that the kid that did not do his work, it didn't matter what that teacher did. They still didn't do their work. If they weren't engaged, they still weren't there. It just didn't matter. That's not about. The more respect everyone has on this whole medium, the better it's going to work.
Oh, I love that. The more respect that we all have for each other in this medium, the better it's going to work. Thank you for that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. It's been a mantra of mine in the last year and a half or so, and it's become so critically important to me. Schooling and learning, education is not about teaching children to be compliant with rules. It really isn't. The goal of education and learning is to grow better humans, right? To help people become more fully who they are in the package that they come packaged with, right? And the more we can embrace that and respect that in each other, the sooner we can do that, the sooner we can work our way out of this present crisis, because we'll empower enough people who are really excited and interested and who are capable of finding that vaccine, antidote, antiviral that you're talking about. And because we'll have people who give to their passions and give their minds to those passions for solving that kind of problem. And it's the only way we're going to allow for the creativity and to encourage creativity in students, is to actually build creative opportunities for them while they're students. So that respect, I love that, generates those creative opportunities.
I love that. You just said that moving away from, compliance and control and moving towards creativity is really the biggest win of all of this. And that is the biggest part of our schooling system that needs to change for all students. Because you're exactly right. And so many of us believe that that is the only way that we're going to create people who can actually tackle the real challenges that we face in this world.
Right.
And because you guys are here, we need parents, we need students, we need communities all together like a triangle, like we're working together for the same thing. And this is an opportunity for us to break down a lot of those walls and to encourage and boost a lot of our students that haven't ever felt that before or haven't had that energy or that desire to plug in. Like a virtual setting like this can actually help those students plug in. And I just want to thank you both so much for joining me today. You guys dropped an amazing amount of gems, and I'm going to have to go back. I want to write all about this, and just, the things that you said were amazing. But before we go, are there any last thoughts that you want to impart about virtual schooling and the opportunity that exists?
One thing I want to be sure to get out there, and that is I want to attack a myth that keeps coming up in the conversation around virtual schooling, and that is this myth of falling behind. There isn't a line out there that says this is where everybody should be. That's a myth. To say that everyone should be at this particular level of development or this particular level, we should all be doing this at this time or whatever. Those are myths. Those are broad generalities that really have a statistical distribution. Something, if you've heard of the bell curve, the normal distribution, it's an on average, and there are people far beyond it. There are people that are not there yet, and that doesn't make anybody less. It makes all of us the same in many ways. We are all traveling along this pathway together, and let's not worry about falling behind. Our students are going to find their niche. They're going to find their place of excellence because it's because we're going to foster that for them. And if we can do that, we can get over this fear.
Yes.
I love that. Sophia, are there any last
For
words?
me, yes. The myth of cheating. Okay. Purpose, once again. Okay. As parents, first off, you have to remember, as parents and caregivers, you have to at times be the eyes for your teachers. They're not there 24/7. Okay. So when you have that situation where their child has a test and you put the child in a room alone, that's the same as a teacher walking out of the classroom. You left them alone. So if they don't know it, they will, possibly look it up. Okay. That said, teach your children what they're there for. Remind them that every step we make, we have to meet a standard. And what they learn is coming back at them, whether it's in a midterm, whether it's in a standardized test, whether it's to get into college. So it's important for them to know the information. Okay. And as parents, quiz them, test them, talk to them about it. Dinner time is a great time to talk about it. I rarely quiz my boys as much as I talk to them. Let's talk about it. You can hear what they know. Okay. Let them make a video, let them make a song, do an art piece. There's so many ways for them to express their knowledge. Given the opportunity, they will show you so much more than what can happen in one little block of time. But teachers really have to start to have faith in students, that students want to learn and students want to see themselves succeed. They want to get that A, they want to get that grade, on their own merit. That really give children more credit than that. This whole lockdown thing, lock the systems, give them more credit than that. They really do want to learn.
I love that. And I think that's a great way to end because it's so positive and it's why we're here. It's to grow our children, no matter where they fall in the spectrum, K through 12, or even in college or in wherever they are. I mean, that's why we're here, and giving them the respect that they want to learn is exactly where we need to begin. And so again, I want to thank you both for being here tonight, and thank you anybody and everybody who's been watching, whether you're watching live or whether you catch this after our live session is ended. We appreciate it so much. Feel free to drop your questions still. We can still come back and answer them. We hope that for a lot of students who are starting tomorrow and teachers that are starting tomorrow, I know a lot of people in my hometown in the Texas area where I lived are starting tomorrow. We just want to send you the best, whether you're starting 2 weeks from now or next month. We hope for the best for all of you, and please take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.